Welcome back to the Aquarius Samples video series. My name is Dave Gilby. In this Aquarius Samples video, I will show you how to securely access all of your lab and field sample data online. You'll see how all discrete data of any kind, including water, air, soil, biological, and tissue data, are available for rapid search, analysis, and visualization, so you can make better decisions anytime, anywhere. Let's start by looking at observations.
Let's start with the observations screen and the observations page. So on this page, you'll notice right off the bat that we have a few filters here that allow you to serve up your data in virtually any way that you could see fit, including limiting that data search by a date range. We have different ways to review those observations. One is a list. Certainly we can do a chart, and I'll show you those in a few minutes. And we can also contextualize the data in terms of a map, where these data points relate to a point on the globe. A little bit of the functionality of the page. These filters can be folded up and unfolded. There's a search box here where we can search for things like, maybe we want to search for just results that say copper. And as soon as I type that in, the system is queuing up all the copper results in the system. I could also do something just as general and say creek, and that will bring up any of the data in the system that has the term creek in it. So you'll notice here we have a creek system, another creek system. So many different ways you can search. This applies to the numeric values, the results, the depths, the status, grades, so on and so forth. So many different ways to filter your data. Let's start by a common search that most people do, which is looking at a location. And let's look at a generalized location we have here as an example. And I'm just going to look up some nitrate data. That nitrate data is being added over time, and this list allows me to keep current on what data is in the system and what status that it's at. So you'll notice right off the bat, we have a status of reviewed. That status can be further classified by you as the end user. This is a configurable list, as well as grades can be configured to your best business practices. That makes Aquarius Samples very flexible and scalable to basically fit in with your organizational best practices. So you'll notice that once we start taking a look at some of this data, we can certainly see this in a list. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and it should be noted that I'm just using a web browser to visualize my data. This is Google Chrome. You could certainly use Internet Explorer or another web browser, but as I scroll through my data, you'll notice things like notifications here about quality flags from the laboratory. As we continue to scroll down, we'll see more data being loaded at the bottom of the screen. It should be noted that none of this data actually resides on the laptop that I'm recording on today. This data actually resides on an Amazon Web Service server. And as we continue to load and load more data, you'll see that we have all that data queued up into one system. Now, at any point during our search, this may be enough for looking for nitrate data you want to provide to somebody you're working with or a cooperator. You could export this data at any time and export this to a CSV just by clicking on the Export to CSV button. We can further define our data by saying, let's just look at the data that's been reviewed by our staff and is ready to be used in a publishable area. We can also look at things like sample fraction, analytical group that we create. These are all groups that can be created by the end user. Collection method, if you want to look at nitrate results that were collected by a certain method, that might be useful, as well as taxonomic elements. Furthermore, we can take a look at a date range. This is very handy if you're looking for seasonality, if you're looking for just a month's worth of data, or you have a cooperator that's just interested in a few points in time. So let's take a quick look here. Let's look at just 2015 through 2017, and we'll say apply, and you notice our matches have been filtered down to just 19 matches. Now this portion right here is going to tell you how many data points meet the criteria in your filters. Very useful in bringing up your observations. If you've brought in some data that you want to delete, you of course have to be an administrator to do that, but you can delete some observations from the screen. Maybe they're errant data or they need to be reloaded for some person. So deleting data can be easy as long as you have the correct role. Let's take a quick look at charting. Charting is going to allow you to plot those data points. Again, we've got those 19 matches over the time period we've sent. And you notice that we have some type of seasonality here to the data. I can click on any data point and get further information about the metadata. Again, the result, the date it was collected, the analysis date, the status, the grade, the depth, the sample medium. That's something we haven't talked about to this point, but Aquarius Samples is certainly focused on the water quality data elements, but there's other elements in the system that you can be aware of that you can put in the system. Basically, any kind of environmental data can be queued up into Aquarius Samples. And this list, like the other lists I've showed you before, is a configurable list. Let's take a further look at some of this data. We can, by clicking on this data point, we get all this metadata, but we also get links to the actual sample bottles themselves. For example, if this sample bottle had more than just nitrate requested for analysis, you would see those other results and other sample requests here. We can also take a look at the actual sample, the volume of water in this case, that was sampled. You can also see that we can look at the other specimens that were collected during the sample. And in this case, we had nitrate and total suspended solids. Now this sample has been received, it's been reviewed, and because of that, you can actually look at the values that were the result of each one of those bottles being sent off to the laboratory. And notice that those are both hyperlinks as well. So if I click on the nitrate result, that is going to take me to the sample results details page. Okay, and those sample results are going to show as the results here with the units, depth, the status, the grade, if there's a collection method, maybe there's a specific device that was used, all that can be put in the system, as well as a change history. Let me show you how this change history works. This is part of the auditability of Aquarius Samples. So if I change something like this value from 1.89 to 1.98, maybe it was just a transcription error by the laboratory, and I save that, I'm going to see a change down here at the end of the screen regarding what happened on this page. So we have a complete change history here about not only that something has changed, but we know exactly what has changed. Let's go back to the observations page and we'll take a look at a chart. Let's take a look at a chart of just this time series. Again, we've looked at the scatter plot, but let's take a look at a box plot. This box plot is limited to this date range, and just like the previous screen, you can see that we have individual data points. Those data points can be clicked on, and you can drill down further into all the rich metadata that associates each one of those sample points. We can even go one step further and map this data as far as where does this sample reside in terms of a geographic location? Where was this collected? The system also gives you the value of the last sample collected based on your date range and that actual date that was collected.
That concludes our video of Aquarius Samples on observations, filtering, and visualization with charts, plots, and maps. To learn more, be sure to watch our next video or book a consultation with our experts today. Thanks for watching.